Welcome back, everybody, to another 0-Point Reviews with Jeff and Kevin. This time we're doing 1983's Joysticks, starring Joe Don Baker as the main headliner of this one. Kevin, you know about this very first video game movie ever made.
Never, ever have I heard about this except for once from you 2 years ago, I think.
I'm not surprised.
I thought Tron was the first video game movie. Or
true video game movie, I would say. This is more based on like arcade. Yeah. It's not actually based on an actual story of a video game or anything, but it's centered around a video game arcade. Literally called Video Arcade in the movie.
It's not just a clever title.
No, not just a clever title.
No, I didn't know what to expect. This movie kind of caught me off guard. I will be upfront about that. I found myself not liking it in the first couple minutes. Like,
what, you didn't like the main intro theme with the buxom blonde playing a video game totally unrealistically? Like, totally, Kevin.
I've never danced playing video. Well, no, that's not true. My virtual reality games, you do dance and shoot people at the same time.
Okay.
Otherwise, I've never danced while playing an arcade game before, I don't think.
Or arched over with your butt sticking out and shaking it around and wiggle that joystick with a totally awesome video game.
Joystick.
Wiggle it to the right, up and down. Yeah. Round and round.
This was like the theme song was like a 5-minute long jingle for a commercial.
I know, right? Hear it once, it's like, okay, this is pretty interesting. You hear it a second time, it's like, oh my god, that's now getting stuck in my brain. It's completely random and dull and dumb, but it's kind of catchy. And that's how most jingles work for commercials and like just anything in general.
Yes, like jingles are the worst because they become guilty pleasures eventually.
Yep. And then if you believe Demolition Man, they become the great oldies station in about 30 years.
That's true. When the big one of 20 whenever takes us. Yeah.
Big kids, skinny kids.
I'm going to have Oscar Mayer stuck in my head. That's a whole other 0-Point. This, going back to why I didn't like it, is we've been going on some, like, I don't want to say like really epic movies the last couple of weeks, but with some more serious tones. They were not great movies, but there was serious tones. People died. Wasn't a whole lot of yucks to it. This
bit more action adventure, not so light and comedic and borderline raunchy comedy.
Yeah. Not the yucks like, ew. So what I saw at first was a early 80s portrayal of a nerd. Two really cute girls fucking with him so they can get into a sorority.
Yeah.
Which did make me laugh. And then you see this whole music video part in between then. Where gamers are basically portrayed as rabid animals at the feeding pellet, like pressing the thing, waiting for another food pellet to come out.
Hungry hippos.
Yeah. And so I'm sitting there kind of like, this is stupid because we're gamers. Except for, I think I started hating it because I was seeing myself in this movie.
Yeah, it's a bit self-referential at times. Like I saw myself in this movie a little bit too. Like there's definitely games I played. I hung out in arcades growing up, and I wouldn't say there was the standard trope of like overweight, smelly, disheveled. I mean, there was that in the arcades, but nobody gave a shit about that. Everybody just left each other alone pretty much. This felt like this was a whole like lifestyle going on around a video game arcade. And that's basically the crux of the story, with Jeff who's basically running the whole place while his owner grandfather is is off gallivanting or whatever's going on, or trekking down his former flame from like however many months, weeks ago it was, while he's hanging around with trying to have like threesomes and whatnot with everybody.
It was just consensual naked time. There was none of that.
Strip video gaming. Hey, don't knock it till you try it.
You know, it was the first time for me I've ever seen strip arcade. And I was like, that's brilliant. Yeah, why have I never thought of that?
This is the only movie I've ever seen this in. It's where it started and where it ended, apparently.
I saw that and I was kind of like, take that, Friday the 13th. Strip monopolies out that way.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's also important to note that Jeff...
Well, ladies, you know I never play these games.
He just doesn't play these games. It's a
you know what? That I thought was foreshadow. I mean, it is. Yeah. But I thought it was going to lead into the fact that he's a ringer and we're just going to dominate at the end of the movie. And
that's kind of what it makes you think. Like, but this is 83. This is before they started really laying into that kind of a plot device.
Yeah, it really is as simple as this. Dude has the yips and he can't play games no more. And before the kids at home that don't watch baseball, that's not a racial term. What that means is his nerves are so racked is he can't play video games well anymore. He sucks.
Yeah.
But he's happy to let the ladies play and watch them naked.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you got like also Patsy and her best friend and like any number of other like ladies. They all kind of swarm him because he basically runs the place. And so, but he's also a very handsome guy. Let's not lie here. He's total model looking dude who maybe will play a video game, maybe not. Then you hear the backstory about why he doesn't play a video game. And it's like, the fuck? But you know, he's got the looks for it to be a total, you know, man whore. And he kind of is, but he kind of isn't at the same time. It's one of those weird movies. Like, you definitely feel like this was leading towards Revenge of the Nerds the following year, because this was 1983. Revenge of the Nerds was 84. And it made you wonder, like, I wonder if anybody was watching Joysticks a little bit and seeing what they could bring over to Revenge of the Nerds. And I like Revenge of the Nerds just fine. There's things in it that do not age well. I understand that. There's things that probably don't age well in this movie, but this is 1983, yo. I was like 6 years old when this movie came out, so I didn't even know about this till like years later, but it's just how it rolls with like these old raunchy comedies. Like, they were definitely something else back then.
Yes. And had I, in the first 5 minutes, again, I've written down my notes. How is Rick Sloan not associated with this movie? Like, there are so many movies in the first 5 minutes. I'm like looking for Rick Sloan's anywhere his name in the credits.
Rick, were you under a different name in this movie? If so, please blink twice and message us by Twitter, by DM. We will get you on. Either that or we'll get you on for Hobgoblins.
But what happened where I started really realizing where things were going, or what type of film I was watching, was not so much when Dorfus and Eugene meet, and Dorfus basically threatens Eugene, leave me alone before I cut you. I felt that inside because I have a little brother and I have kids. I feel that way often. But it's where he's trying to get JDB out of the arcade and he just screams, Dorfus maneuver! And he blows out
a rip.
Gnarly fart. It wasn't so much the fart that made me laugh. That I was kind of like, okay, it's a fart joke. It's all the people around him, especially the girls, sold that shit so well. Like the girl in blue is like, oh.
Well, it kind of makes you wonder how'd they get the Foley sound for that, or if he had a little bit of something happen on, like if you could be like a booger and like fart on cue instead of burping on cue. This is where I'm saying, like, somebody might have been like watching this being like, hey, we could do something like this, but we'll name him Booger instead of Dorfus.
Yeah.
Do it with burps, and so it's not nearly as potentially gross. But like most of us are like grown adults, and we're like, "Fuck, yo, this is what we grew up with, making fun of and doing to each other." So it worked.
It was at that point where I was like, okay. At first, I had suspicions when the girls pulled their tops down. We're dealing with very lowbrow humor in this movie. Sincerely lowbrow humor, but they have fun. It's a self-aware movie, and it's very on par with Porky's. And I say that with utmost respect because I love the first Porky's movie, and this is
really good. Second one's decent. Third one, I don't even bother with.
Yeah. No, but this was fun. This at the end of the movie, what this basically is this is a cross between Porky's and the Music Man, right down to the fact that they're in River City and they're trying to get the arcade, which doesn't stand with T or rhyme with P or pool, trying to get it shut down. He even says, "That's the trouble right here in River City." And I was like, oh, he said it.
Oh, Joe Don. He stole this movie for me outside of Jon Gries. And most people would recognize Jon Gries. Well, maybe not with all the hair on his head and how young he looked and what he looked like as King Vidiot, but he is also Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. He's been in TV shows like The Pretender. He's been across the board. A couple of years later, he was in Real Genius, and he had very long hair, and he actually had a beard he was rocking. And that's the guy on the right, Jon Gries. That's Uncle Rico, everybody.
Really?
Yep.
Huh. I loved this scene here. This was so cool. Like, I've never seen a giant arcade before, like, other than what I do with the projector. So that was really, well, no, I'm sorry. Other than the Wizard, where they're playing Super Mario Brothers 3 on a giant...
On the giant screen, yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. That's the only reason really to watch the Wizard. But this was very similar to that, and it was fun because they had this little tortoise in the hair moment where King Vidiot's trying to like just dominate and show how awesome he is, and Dorfus is just eating a hot dog and not giving two fucks, and everyone's kind of like, "Get on it! You're gonna do something. You're gonna do something."
Yeah, I'll get there.
Yeah, and he's finishing his hot dog, and it's just a complete slobbish, and I'm like, oh, I feel seen. Video games have made me who I am today, just like King Vidiot and Dorfus.
Yeah.
I can't say I spent too much time at the arcade. My damage is home console gaming.
Yeah, ultimately for a while, up until probably like the era of like the N64, like the later Sega Genesis consoles, somewhere in the mid 90s, that's about where I started the consoling at home. Otherwise, I had like my Atari 7800. I was actually going to wear my old Atari shirt. I couldn't find it, so I'm rocking my Nintendo diagram of a controller here. But even though that's like way after this freaking game and arcades and whatnot, but I did play in arcades quite a bit through like elementary and junior high. They weren't really like hangout spots though. I mean, there were places where you hung out at the mall waiting for movies or to get away from your parents while they went shopping and having their own lunch, and you could just screw around for like an hour or two. But like these people seem like they lived there the entire time, and that kind of gave like the arcade a sense of like home for a lot of people in this movie, and like a great place to go where they could be themselves. And they actually made that a point during the speech with the city hall, like these are all these losers could go to hang out and be themselves. It saved the arcade.
That was so awesome. I loved that. And you're right. It was like a clubhouse. It was the social club for the kids.
Exactly.
And so of course the adults aren't going to like that. And even the bad guy's niece loves hanging out there. And they could have shunned Patsy really easily, but they actually oh my god, that was so hard to take because of who it was. And fans of The Flash, Patsy is played by Corinne Bohr, who's Prink, the original Harley Quinn. And it wasn't hard to see her in this role, but it was hard to take the Valley Girl accent.
Oh, you mean like this one?
Why can't my daddy be like everybody else's and stay home and barbecue?
Stay home and barbecue.
Why can't my daddy be like everybody else's daddy? Boy, they really laid into the Valley accents with her and her best friend. I was just like, oh my God. I had to like rewind and put on subtitles to understand what half the shit she was talking about. And I knew people growing up that had like Valley accents when I was living in San Diego. And it's like, you could tell they were like totally faking that. It's like,
yes.
God, it's like speaking Yiddish or something, or Pig Latin. I mean,
Pig
it's
Latin.
like, what the fuck are you even talking about? I can barely understand you, yo.
It's anti-jive. That's like,
like Airplane.
if there was something cool, this is the opposite of it.
Of course.
But no, like largely in part, I like the setting of the arcade. They had a bunch of like they had a bunch of video games that were actually pretty well known. They talked about Galaga. They showed Pole Position to start with. They had Defender. They had like Space Invaders. They had quite a few. Like that's part of the fun of the movie is just scanning the arcade to see which games that you might remember. And they actually had a driving game that they had a like this random scene in the middle of. And I was trying to figure out what the hell game that was, and I couldn't figure it out.
It wasn't the one from the very beginning.
Correct. It was this is my video game on reserve, and then one of the idiot cousins was dressed in drag trying to convince everybody he's like this girl, and she's like, I want to try this car game, and he's like, ain't nobody using this game but me.
What was fucking fantastic about that, racist as fuck because it was a Hispanic gangbanger, is the overhead chassis of the arcade where you sit had dingle balls all around it, like Cheech's car,
right?
The sex machine from I think that was the car's name, from Up in Smoke. But anyway, yeah. Now I know the one you're talking about. I don't know what car game that was.
Yeah, that would have been fun to see that, but they were probably trying to be a little bit careful about showing off too many games. But this is before like product placement, so I'm not entirely sure. Is this a video game arcade you would have gone to, maybe, Kevin, or what do you think?
Oh,
again, there would have been hot girls there.
Yes, probably would have been shitty at the games at that point, but that's okay too. I cracked the joke, and it goes back to when we reviewed Kolchak.
Yeah,
I liked it better when I had that like horrible stigma from my parents that arcades is where gangbangers go to murder people and sell drugs.
Yeah,
it just sounded cooler at that point. This is a lot more fun. It's a bit zanier. It's kind of like what Dave and Buster's would be without booze, I guess.
Yeah, I could say that or see that.
I don't know.
They didn't have too many of like the other like standard games like skee ball or like a basketball hoop and stuff going on. Well, they might not have been doing that in these early arcades. This is early 83, so this was still like pretty new for a bunch of people back then.
I think the videos were just as what they wanted in there because that was the trend.
Yeah, I didn't even see like pinballs in there.
Which is funny because Jefferson's last name is Bailey. So I was like, I caught that motherfucker.
I could use a cup of Bailey's right now.
No, the pinball company.
Oh, I know.
Which eventually sold out and became a sports gym. Yeah, I think it's a gym now.
I think so.
I don't know. Doesn't matter. That's another 0 Point.
That's okay.
That's okay. But I lost it.
You lost it? You mean you lost the game? My God, Kevin, come on. We got a video review here.
I know. Okay, so I was told arcades were like horrible and dangerous. This is fun. This is someplace, I would hang out in. This is someplace like David Buster's and Game Zone were with the booze. I'm sorry. I misspoke that the first time. This is a lot of fun. There's a little bit more weed here, I think, than there is booze. There's more sex here than there is booze and weed.
Especially hot tubs and vans.
That was dope. I
know.
We've done that in the back of pickup trucks before, but never had a hot tub in a van. That was fucking beautiful. Like, that just redefined the stabbing cabin is really what that did for me.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And since I said the word stabbing cabin, let's just take a look at JDB here for our Mitchell fans. Just
like a stud, dude.
Yeah. Anyway, think of that baby lotion, Mitchell.
Well, I would say this is definitely Joe Don improved. And he deserved to stop billing. He was basically the main bad guy in this. He even was smarming off with the reporter and smarming off with everybody. And he was even beating the crap out of the cousins at the very end and yelling at the mayor. And nothing. He lost the bet because Video was like, I ain't playing no more. I stopped playing. You're on your own, jackass, because you were leaving me with my little motorcycle behind.
That was funny as fuck. That was so humble. Like, they got circus motorcycles out of it.
Yep. I got a kick out of Video for most of the movie. Like, him and his little hench girls, and they were all doing the little blip, 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 and moving around like a bunch of video game Pac-Man. It was just kind of quirky and fun.
I didn't look, but I was hoping that their names were like Blinky, Winky, and whatever the other ghosts' names are.
Slinky.
Yeah, but them doing the little dance going around in circles around him, I was kind of like,
blip, 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 blip.
Oh, my God. All right, they're hot.
I could fix them. No, I cannot. That's when I would say something like this.
I don't think so.
They were funny. Like, King Vidiot can't really be seen as a bad guy. Like, he loves the arcade. He just hates Bailey.
Yeah.
Bailey kicked him out for being stupid.
Right.
Which I'm sure there were people like that in the 80s that thought that they were just like cock of the walk when it came to being good in arcades.
Oh, yeah.
Video games were new at the time. They were exciting. And we do see a bit of that in this movie. It's where the mayor walks in and he's like, oh, hey, this is kind of cool. But then it, again, shows him acting like a fucking depraved addict within seconds. Like, I need to do this better. More quarters.
Yep. Oh, and you also had the random people earlier, like the Larry Moe and Curly kind of guy that was kind of random. The monk that was playing there, thinking the machines were possessed, but he couldn't stop playing. And please help me, but give me more quarters. I want to keep playing.
It was so fucked up. Again, this movie is silly enough that it is on par with Porky's. I don't know why I'd never heard of it prior to this. It's fun. It's stupid fun, but it's fun.
Yeah, you could definitely look at this as a bit of a cult classic. I mean, Great Clark did a pretty good job doing directing on this. And while the script is a bit short at times and it feels completely stupid and random with bits and pieces and character twists and whatnot, oddly, it still flows together. It's 86 minutes long and it moves pretty quick. So the pacing's tight. The story's interesting enough that there's something to get into. Even if you're not really into old arcades, like this is still kind of like a little treasure from the past to look back and see like how video games were idolized back then and how much of a clubhouse feel they had back then. I mean, there's the occasional arcade that's in your nearest major town. And How do they feel? I don't know. I haven't been in one in a long time, but it would at least get you interested in maybe checking it out and giving it a whirl, or even going to your local Dave and Buster's. I mean, there's something to be said about having fun at an arcade, just screwing off for a couple of hours, not having to do anything. I went on to Dave and Buster's on an early date with my wife, and we had a blast. We got like tickets, we turned them in for some prizes at the end from like some of the more like the basketball games and whatnot. But
Oh yeah.
just going around, having a couple drinks, having some fun food, and then just playing a bunch of random video games. It's like, dude, I was playing like Ghouls and Goblins.
Oh yeah.
And that was fun. And of course, I plucked myself right at the Altered Beast cabinet for like a good 35 minutes. My wife's like,
Go.
well, she wasn't my wife at the time, but she was like, "You gonna keep playing that all night?" I'm like, okay, no.
Go sexy Pharaoh. Go sexy Randall the Pharaoh Wizard.
Oh my God.
I fucked that up. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Another
But this is
callback.
definitely an interesting Jodan Baker movie. It's far from his more serious roles, but he takes it very seriously. And
Sure.
without him, I don't know if this movie would have come together as well as it did. Like I always say, your villain is only as good as, or your hero is only as good as his villain. And Jodan's a great foil for Joffrey, as Patsy would say.
Joffrey.
But it was pretty fun, and they had good chemistry. Everybody had good chemistry with each other. So it at least felt like everybody was working well together, and it just had a good flow and a good sense of fun to it. It's just, it gets a little quirky at times, bit random, but what movies didn't back then? And you're like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, it does, but then you kind of have to look at the jokes that they're making, and it's funny because a lot of it's true. Where Eugene first meets Dorfus, and Jeffrey's telling Eugene, "You don't know who he is. He was the class valedictorian, and his grades were like phenomenal. He was the smartest guy in school."
Right.
And Eugene goes, "What happened to you?" And he goes, "The games, man." And I'm like, that's just ridiculous. And I'm thinking to myself, I used to have a GPA of 3.85. I had a full ride scholarship in extreme biology and genetics. And now I'm a podcaster. I play video games all day, watch movies all day professionally.
Yep. You have or failed upwards, as they say.
I own a virtual reality helmet.
I don't. I'm a little behind the ball on that one.
Yeah. I tried to upload into the machine like Job. Didn't work, but still. I love my video games. So again, I can't turn my nose at this. It was funny because I look at myself and I'm like, fuck, that's true. I'm in this picture and I don't like it.
Yeah. Now with Eugene, did you feel like he was a bit like Sean Astin? Like when the movie first started? I'm like, man, if Sean Astin was old enough to do this, he would have been the perfect role for it, because he certainly looked a little bit like him and he sounded like him. And I love Sean Astin. He's fantastic. But like, I kept watching this movie like, fuck, if they did a reboot, he'd be a great guy to play an older Eugene if Leaf wasn't going to come back and do it.
I could see that. This would be a fun little universe. I mean, it would be hard to do a sequel because there are no arcades anymore. But it would be a fun universe to revisit. And I guess maybe that's only for the Gen Xers. Like, certainly kids, my kids most certainly wouldn't know what this is. Most kids don't know what malls are, let alone an arcade.
What malls still exist, Kevin?
Here and there.
Come down to Arizona. They exist.
There's that one in Medford I told you about.
Oh, yeah.
They had the Sam Goody.
Yeah, I actually went there.
Which is funny because
that's where my Batman sign came from.
Oh, far out.
Yeah.
Huh. Anyway, that's another part, another 0.point that's just for the Gen Xers. Goody, Suncoast, Musicland. They were all the same company.
Yeah. FYE.
And they were next to the arcade in my old mall, which the mall was called Northridge, which is in Salinas, California. And I've told you that's basically the barrio.
Yeah.
Even criminals don't like to go there. It's hell on earth. But the mall was really cool. And again, was always told you can't go into the arcade. People are just selling drugs in there. People get stabbed all the time. I went with my friend's parents, and my friend's parents were like, yeah, here's roll of quarters. You guys go fuck off while we go shopping. It was the coolest thing ever.
Oh, yeah. Well, I remember in Vegas, they had, at Circus, they had like one of the biggest arcades I'd ever seen. It was like 2 floors of like nothing but video game arcades. It was fun, but I don't know if that's still there or not. I know they're doing a bunch of remodeling, so.
I don't know. I've never been to Vegas, let alone Circus. I just know that it was the place where you would go if you had kids. And I'm just thinking to myself, why not the Clown Motel? Is it just too far away? But whatever, that's just me.
Could be. Now, Kevin, how'd you end up watching this one? Did you catch this on Tubi, or where'd you find this one at for our audience to know where to look for it?
I watched it on Tubi, and for the people that don't like ads, there was two ads that I had to watch for, again, an 80-minute movie. Was not a problem at all. I liked it. Yeah. The picture quality, fantastic. Could not complain.
Yeah, I watched this on Tubi as well. So if you're very familiar with Tubi, hey, go right on over, check this movie out. If you don't have to sign up for Tubi. You don't even have to create an account. You can just roll right in, watch it. I only counted 2 ads as well on my experience. I did it just for ease of use because I didn't want to dig out my Blu-ray, but I dug out the Blu-ray for this particular 0-Point review. And this is the old edition from Scorpion Releasing. This is pretty good. It's just got they did have a HD master from 2015. They got an audio commentary and an interview with Graydon Clark, which are both fun. But just want to let everybody know that don't try and look for this one. This is close to like $80, $90, if not more, on eBay. Coming out soon. MVD Rewind is putting out a brand new release, February 20th. And Kevin got us a fun little image. They're going to be doing some slip covers. One's going to look like an old Atari cartridge. And it's going to have a little mini poster inside with a bunch of extras. It's coming back in print, everybody, and I couldn't be more happy to see this. I am getting a copy, and I'm looking very much forward to it. Should be awesome. Eric Wilkinson does a fantastic job. Highly recommend everybody go look for that. You can pre-order it on Amazon. You can pre-order it on Orbit DVD, Diabolic DVD. There's a million places you can go check. These are some of the best places to go if you want to for sure get a copy and at a decent price. So highly recommend checking that out and support our buddy Eric over at MVD Rewind. Excellent movies, and I am looking forward to it greatly.
I am too. This is something I definitely am going to add to my collection. It's not I am going to get this when it comes out. Like, yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot. And what makes me like it a lot is the fact that I went into this curmudgeonly.
Yeah, I know. You're like,
and it was like, no
joysticks. I'm like, well, we might be able to get somebody on for an interview or something. It'd be fun if we did like a video game month out of it too. And well, things didn't work out as far as like getting somebody on here. That's totally cool. The fact that we could still talk about this movie, which is one of the very first video game movies, largely centered around an arcade, but video games do play a major role in the movie. It's still fun to talk about, and it opens up your eyes to a movie you may not know about. And if you like raunchy comedies from the 80s, this fits right in. Beautiful women fits right in. Dialogue at times fits right in. It's something for just about everybody. And if you're just not interested in that, that's okay. Most of the movies we cover, some of them are fantastic. Some of them just aren't for everybody, and that's just the way it is. So if you don't like Porky's, you don't like Revenge of the Nerds, this is not gonna change your mind on any of those movies. So Just keep on stepping, keep on moving along, but still check out our video. We'd like your likes and subscribes.
Yes, thank you. Speaking of which, they do give us a callback to another episode of 0 Point Reviews in the court scene.
Oh, Swamp Thing. Oh, I never caught that.
He was sitting there reading Swamp Thing.
Oh, nice.
And the cousin, I couldn't stop seeing it throughout the entire movie.
The curly-haired one or the Anaheim Angels hat? Or California Angels at the time hat?
The California Angels. The curly-haired gentleman looked like Tiny Tim, but they were both looking at their cousin like, oh, goodness, I guess I can get in on that. And all I could think of was, ew.
Yeah, that was pretty creepy.
Death.
Yeah.
But the where they get away from the video games in this, and they have the town hall meeting or the debate.
Yeah,
it was funny. It was funny. Like I liked the part where Patsy is testifying for the arcade
for Joffrey.
Yeah, for Joffrey. And JDB's holding up her MasterCard, and he's sitting there just pointing at it like this.
That was so funny. This movie cracks me up in certain scenes, and that's one of them. It's like, I control the money, kid. Here goes the gold MasterCard, you little bitch.
That was the
totally
most 80s thing I'd ever seen.
Oh my god. It should have been like a gold, like American Express card. Because then he could say, you're not going home with this.
It killed me. And then the nurse, I know I was sitting there making the jokes about the joysticks.
Oh, yeah.
Where she was going off on germs, and her facial expressions just kept getting goofier and goofier and goofier, and she scares everybody when she's done talking about germs. Kept saying germs, 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 germs.
She was a bit wild, and she ended up somewhat hooking up with the coach through all of this.
Oh, the coach sitting there talking about video games like they're women.
Yeah.
Because there's a scene in Rocky, kids at home. There's a scene in Rocky where Burgess Meredith is like yelling at Rocky to stay away from Adrian. Women weaken legs. They're treating arcade machines like they're like that for the football players, because they lose all their sense of doing your chores, going out and doing practice, doing studying. It's basically the whole complaint from the Music Man is what they're complaining about with the arcade. And germs. Germs!
Germs!
I can't do the eye thing that she does, but that was pretty fucking funny. Funny as shit.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
God, that whole, like...
I'm not going to scream germs again, I promise.
Germs!
Germs!
Sorry.
What did you think of Mrs. JDB in this movie and her insatiable night
horniness?
Yeah, I was trying to think of what's a good word for that. It's not night terror.
Well, that cougar was definitely on the prowl because of how the movie went. It's like, is this where it very first started for like raunchy comedies? Because it, American Pie did the whole MILF thing, but like this is like from 1983. American Pie is from very early 2000s. It seems like every sort of like 17, 18 years, somebody's got a different idea on how to put that in a comedy. And just when you kind of put it in perspective, like, they've been thinking about this about every 17, 18 years for the teenagers.
Yeah, it's like Revenge of the Nerds had their rapey scene, and this was its own rapey scene, and It was, but it wasn't. Like Eugene falls on top of JDB's wife as they're trying to sneak through the house and sneak out.
Oh God, yeah.
And she's on so much Valium, but she's super horny that she can't wake up. And she thinks that Eugene is this hot man on top of her, and she's just ravaging him. And he's wanting to get off of her, and he's asking Dorfus for help. And Dorfus is like, no, just go with it. Go with it.
Fly, young man, fly. Ride that wild steed. And then Jodan comes back, and he's home, and he's just like getting ready for bed, and all this action's going on in the bed. He doesn't even notice it or hear it or anything. And Dorfus is hiding in the closet behind like all these clothes. And Dorfus is just like, please don't see me. Hey, what's going on out there? Hey, please don't see me. And he crawls into bed, and Vivian and Eugene are still trying to half get it on while she's like half cuckoo. And Joda's just like, stop it, Vivian. Go back to sleep, or I'm not in the mood, or just whatever he was saying to her, it just wasn't working, and he was just getting like frustrated. This is so wild.
Too pissed off to even bother to turn around and look.
I'd be like, what are you doing over? Who the hell are you? Like, it's too much bumping around to be like, what's going on?
Yeah. But it was a long day. Long day.
Something was long, and it wasn't him. It might have been the mighty Simba.
Simba. Nancy Gambia Mabagiti Baba.
Ahenya.
He named his dick Simba.
Oh, and he mentioned it twice in this movie, at the beginning and at the end. It's like, boy, this movie is bookended by Eugene, basically.
And he had the confidence at the end of this, like, you're gonna meet Simba.
I'm gonna rock that world. And boy, did she have a whip to tame that Simba.
The whip.
Oh God, I can't take
it. She had such sights to show him.
I didn't really recognize her from anything, but I thought, what did you think of the actors? Do you think they were pretty well cast for this one, at least?
Yes. Yeah.
I know we talked about a couple of them, but I was just curious what you thought.
I'm surprised that Dorfus wasn't busier throughout film. He was so fun in this. I loved those characters. I liked the interaction between Eugene and Dorfus. Like, those two guys had some really good on-screen chemistry together. I even put in my notes.
Polar opposites, basically.
Yeah, considering they start out not liking one another at all.
Yes.
But Eugene grows to understand the poetry that is Dorfus.
Well, and Dorfus grows to respect him a bit, too.
Yeah,
which I think is a very nice touch to the story and overall. Just to be serious for a moment about this completely insane comedy.
Yes. Okay. So regarding that, it starts out with the two girls humiliating Eugene.
Yep.
Taking a picture of him without his pants on.
Taking his pants
to the arcade. And so he's got to drive to work at the arcade for his first day with no pants. Jefferson gets the picture back for him because that's his employee.
Yep.
This is his first day. He didn't need to do that. The chicks were naked with him, and he did that just to get the picture back. It was cool. So it's like everyone there was a family. And you saw that, like, it really nailed it home at the end where Grandpa comes back. And Dorfus is like, Grandpa, he's got a special problem. He's like, well, yeah, he does. That boy needs to get laid.
Grandpa could tell. Everybody could tell.
Grandpa's feeling up fucking hello nurse behind him. And you're like,
oh my God, I know, right? And she's just kind of looking like, yeah, I'm that kind of nurse. It's like, ooh,
how much is 10 million really?
Well, yeah. Well, and he's also not only bringing his hot nurse, he's bringing like Jeffrey's like ex-flame, like who got moved away because they got caught making out in the managerial room by her dad. Like,
He
who the
sees
fuck
her
is her
dad's
dad? That
face
made no sense.
in the screen of a video game, and so now he's got the yips when it comes to video games. He can't play them without seeing the dad's face.
I don't know. That didn't really work for me. It's just like, what? That's your fucking excuse? Wow. Okay. But I went with it. It's fine.
Yeah, you had to respect. Yeah, he's a flirtatious guy. That's his job. It brings more quarters into the house. But he really does love this one girl. But the movie didn't have time for a romance, so they didn't mention it till the very end.
Right.
And I liked that about this movie. Like, it didn't waste time with sappy songs and needing to rekindle shit.
If it was going to be that kind of movie, they would have started with that shit.
Mm-hmm. It was very much like the ending to the first Wayne's World. We're like, let's do the super mega happy ending.
or do what Clue did and do like 3 different endings.
Yeah,
this is what could have happened. This is what could have happened. This is what really happened.
We Grandpa comes home.
Man, the 80s had some wild movies, didn't they?
The 80s were something else. Like, not a whole lot ages well from the 80s.
This is
but
true.
A whole lot can be laughed at about the 80s, but also fondly reminisced.
Exactly.
Again, I'm sorry that not a lot of people were doing drugs and getting murdered in this movie, but I guess it was better for the, like, never mind. My parents lied, and I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, but if
your parents probably lied too, America.
Yeah, damn it. But if you want an early reference to the hot tub time machine, this is probably the movie for you because of that hot tub scene.
Oh yeah, again, that
this
was
van is
really
a rockin'. Cool. Don't you come and knockin'.
And they didn't mind that Eugene falls in.
Yeah, I know. They were laughing at his ass. Well, and then Jeff and Dorfus come out there. They just swing the door wide open, and they're like, "Everything okay in here?" And they're like, "Yep, everything's fine." And she's still topless, and everybody's just having a good old time. And poor Eugene's just like, "What
drowning.
the hell? I can't swim."
In a van.
Hey, what am I grabbing?
Oh, god damn, that joysticks.
Really awesome video game.
I love arcade machines. They're not for everybody, but the one-up arcades are very expensive, extremely overpriced for what they actually are.
Yeah, they're like $400 to like $600-$700 depending on which one you're talking about.
Yeah, and sometimes they're like really cheap when you can get them when they're brand new. Like Star Wars was $600 or $500 plus another $200-$300 for the actual chassis that you could sit in, so you can play it the old-fashioned way. That is worth $700-$800 for me. Street Fighter 2 being $700 for just a rinky-dink little wood cabinet that you put together yourself within minutes. That's not worth $700-$800 for me.
Yeah, I kind of wanted like the Mortal Kombat one, but I just couldn't pull the trigger for that. My wife was like, "Well, where are you going to put it?" At the time, we were in a different house, and I was like, "Well, shit, I don't even know where we would put it."
Yeah,
it's not going in the basement. The basement leaks, so I can't put it down there. Not putting it out in the garage.
We had them. My roommate and I. We had them in our living room, but it was just the two of us, though. And that was just Spy Hunter, Pac-Man, the T2 pinball.
Oh, okay.
And we had another pinball. I can't remember what it was.
I love an old T2 like arcade cabinet, like legit one with the Uzis attached to the for real shooting.
They still have one at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk where they filmed The Lost Boys. And it's so cool. Like, not a whole lot has changed in that arcade since I was a kid. Like, they have some newer like VR type games or shooter games where you're completely in the dark in a seated chassis and playing Jurassic Park or whatever. They have stuff like that. But then there's this whole other section that's like 80s to 90s stuff, and it's just marvelous.
Oh, yeah.
It's still 25 cents to 50 cents.
Yeah. Well, that would be fun. I don't know. This kind of actually makes me want to go to an arcade and give it a whirl again.
They're really expensive. They don't use quarters anymore. It's like, it's okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of.
We have a few arcades at the bowling alley here, and it's mostly like the games that are rigged. That's not really my thing. I would rather sit and play like Pac-Man. This was Spy
You mean
Hunter.
like this one?
Yeah.
Gobble, 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 gobble. Like, nom, 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 nom.
They even came back later on.
Oh my god, I know. Oh my god, that whole setup with the fire scene and the extinguisher, and they're trying to hook up with Jeff, and everybody's in on it together to set them up to get that kind of a picture. God, I'm like, what is going on here?
And to get the picture back for Eugene, because that's where he got Eugene's pantless picture back too, wasn't it? From the girls, I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they give that to JDB instead of this one, which again is fantastic. The look on his face was
The look on your face was even more priceless.
That's the look on my face every time I hear the song Dirty Diana, where the lyric goes, he's not coming home because he's sleeping with me. It's like, oh, bitch! My wife's on the phone.
Oh my god. Shit.
I'm sorry.
we're screwing off with this movie review. You wanted Mortal Kombat Annihilation? Hell no, we're doing something just a little bit different this time. Oh my god.
We watched something silly, not stupid.
And again, yeah.
I will say this about that. This movie got a 4.5 review on IMDb.
Yeah, it did.
That's kind of doing it an injustice. It's not stupid. It's not a bad movie. It's silly. It's fun. Like, if you can get through Porky's, you could most certainly get through this. If you can get through Tron, you could probably get through this. This is funnier and more exciting than Tron. Like, this is the first 5 minutes of Tron for 80 minutes.
If you could dodge Tron 2, you can dodge ball, but you will catch joysticks.
I have dodged everything except for the original Tron so far, and I feel much better for it.
I like the original Tron. The second one, I am not watching the third one with Jared Leto, though.
No.
And I know they're making that. I'm like, I'm not interested.
I don't know why anyone is interested in that. Could be our subtopic next week, huh? I don't know why anyone is interested in making pictures with Jared Leto. Again, all I could think of is studios are trying to make Springtime for Hitler. Like, every big blockbuster's got to be like something to tank to make insurance money on now. Like, Morbius. It
does make you wonder, doesn't it?
They knew Morbius was going to suck. They knew Justice League was going to suck. They knew fucking
just as they know Madam Web is going to suck.
Yep. And no Michael Keaton can save shitty movies. Sorry.
Nope. You know, and I'm just looking up joysticks here on Rotten Tomatoes. It's like 29 out of like 100.
Harsh. I mean, yes, it is a niche cult classic, but it is a classic. I can see why. It's
right.
It's a type of movie that I probably necessarily wouldn't have liked as an 80s flick, if you called it an 80s flick. Because what I don't like about teenager movies from the 80s movies is John Hughes movies. They annoy the shit out of me, where the kids are always like craftier than the adult, and then yay, freeze frame, we outsmarted the adults. This movie wasn't really that. I mean, yes, they do outsmart JDB quite a bit, but
right.
That wasn't the point of the movie. The point of the movie was to just have fun, crack jokes, show boobs, mainly show boobs.
Yeah, they don't even have like horrid language in this either. They don't drop like any F-bombs or much of that sort of nature. It's largely in the nudity and that's basically it. sexual content.
Yep.
So,
The worst word they say in this is penis.
yeah.
And my face just dropped. I'm like, oh, I love that word. That
and the Dorfus maneuver. We're going to trademark that, That's going to be a new thing for us.
Eugene even looks at him and goes, what's a penis? He's a penis.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's the simple things that please me. And again, I'm so happy by the end of this movie because it surprised me that it made me like it. It did.
Yeah. And, the first time I saw this, I thought, well, that's actually pretty fun. I actually didn't mind that at all. And every time I rewatch this, I still get the same kick out of it. And it flies by like so quickly. I know we mentioned it before, but like the runtime, it's like less than 90 minutes and it just flies right by. It's not like other movies where they would probably linger for like another 20 minutes and you're like, oh God, you're killing me here. Like, we don't need this exposition dump here. We don't need that character arc over there. We don't care about the two cousins and where they end up in like 20 years. We don't need a postscript epilogue for this. It ends as well as it should. And it's, I think it's a well-constructed movie. It's pretty well directed. Good pacing, good editing. Story, it's a bit over the map, but
it's okay.
It somehow works. It just works.
I mean, again, it is mixing the Music Man with Tron and Porky's, and
it's definitely got Porky's influences on it.
Yeah, and it wasn't so many concepts that they were just throwing shit at the wall to see what would stick. Right. They knew what they were doing. They knew what they wanted to make, and they did it pretty concisely. Like you said, nothing was extra. If there's anything that was on the cutting room floor, it was probably just extra gags that they didn't have time for.
I'd be shocked. I mean, if they had the forethought back then to do like save stuff for like gag reels or deleted scenes, they absolutely would have done that with this movie. I would say if they even had anything like that, the film print's like long dead. There ain't no saving for something like that. It'd be like some horrible quality as an extra on a DVD. It wouldn't even make it to like a Blu-ray. It just would look so horrible. But, I appreciate what they've done. And like I said, I'm looking forward to the new Blu-ray coming out in a few weeks. So should be a fun time with that one.
I'm going to get that pre-ordered because, again, this was a fun flick. It is something I will probably watch more than once this year.
Yeah.
And it's
a couple of reasons.
For a couple of reasons, some very lowbrow humor. Oh, hi, Cindy. Everyone at home is probably like,
can these two idiots just wrap this up already?
I see two chimps on a Davenport. No, this is fun. This is something that I don't know that I can get Brandy to watch with me.
I don't think Amy would get into this.
Yeah, I still want to get her to see Revenge of the Nerds, but even I don't know.
There's a couple of things in that movie that are just
My wife's been watching Law and Order SVU for the last week and a half. Like,
yeah, you're toast if you play that movie.
I don't even want to say the things that I've been like telling her, like, can you watch anything else but that? Like, really?
Women's Royal Rumble is on right now, honey. No.
that she was mad. I did turn that up yesterday because I was kind of like, I don't want to hear about child molesters while I'm trying to watch wrestling. Like, Bailey's kicking somebody's ass. I don't need to hear that.
Yeah. And spoiler alert, we were watching the Royal Rumble a little bit last night and texting back and forth about what we were watching. I tuned in a little late, but was able to tune in for the Kevin Owens match in the Men's Royal Rumble. So we had a fun time talking about that.
One day we'll get drunk and do live tweeting instead, like actual live tweeting instead of just to each other. So
and really cause a stir.
they're so stupid in real life.
Yeah, when you're asking, like, who's this person? Who's that person? Yeah, this person's good. This other person sucks.
Why is he doing that?
And who's Braun Breaker? Oh, Rick Steiner's kid and Scott Steiner's nephew. Gotcha.
I didn't know who the fucking guy was that was commentating that got pulled into the match. I saw him.
Pat McAfee.
Yeah, he was in there last year and they did the same fucking gimmick. Like, who is he doing here? He gets up to wave to people. He stands on a rolling chair, like a bouncy rolling chair. I don't know how many of you at home have rolling chairs, but they don't have brakes.
No, they don't. When that chairs are rolling, there ain't no stolen.
Don't have brakes.
Freewheeling, kiss stealing.
Yeah, but they had to hold on to the chair. Like somebody had to jump and grab the chair so he can keep jumping on it and wave to people. It's like,
oh my God.
They're not here for you, Home Slice. They're not.
Yeah, even though he's got a very popular internet show. ESPN reporter. He was a former football player. That's basically where his claim to fame came from. And he's kind of as a wrestler, but his personality is what usually gets him over. And that's why he's on the commentary role more than anything. But
I dig it.
Yeah, we didn't get too much of that in this movie with any, it would have been funny if a few years later with Joysticks, they do a sequel and they have this running commentary like they do in Dodgeball. And you have Justin Bateman just being like, ESPN the Ocho. Cotton, I don't know what he's trying here and it may not work.
Or basketball, because they didn't hold anything back. You're excited. Feel these nipples.
The liposuction bags.
We need to do that movie later.
Hey, we'll do a Matt Stone and Trey Parker movie month, even though there's only 2 or 3 movies they did.
Yes. Anyways,
we're calling you guys out, Matt and Trey.
They're blessings. I know most people are like, you're disgusting and horrid. They're pretty funny and smart.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin, before we wrap this up, going to ask you one final question. What would you rate this movie based on, the ratings that we've seen and what you saw with the movie?
I would give this one a 7. I would. Anywhere between 6.5 and a 7.
Yeah.
It's not a story where you're going to sit there and munch popcorn because it's so exciting. It's just fun. It's funny. There's actors in this that are acting like complete nutball characters, specifically Corinne. Patsy was fantastic. Everyone's sweet for the most part. Even the bad guys aren't horrible people.
No, just a bit misguided.
Yeah, King Vidiot's just a Vidiot, and that's all that is.
Yep.
But this is a good flick. I like it, and I think most of our viewers will like it too.
Yeah, I would go 7 out of 10 as well. And there is a charm to it. There's some good humor. There's some very kiddie, childish humor. It's immature. It's random. It's an 80s raunchy comedy movie set in a video game arcade with Joe Don fucking Baker. What could go wrong? It's a good mix. It's good fun and good balance. And thank you everybody for tuning into 0 Point Reviews for Joysticks. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe down below, follow us for all of our video content, and hey, comment. Have you seen this movie? Have you not seen this movie? You have any favorite moments, favorite characters, you spot any video games you once played? We want to hear it down below. So thank you for tuning in, Screamers. We'll see you all next time. Make sure you check us out on all of our social media platforms. We got Facebook, Twitter. We are at Suns and Shadows. We're also on Instagram at Suns and Shadows Cast. We are at SunsAndShadows.com. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you down the road.